The American people don't want stupid wars and America's jobs going overseas and wide open borders. That is, whether intentional or not, that was the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump. I'm glad the president got us away from that Republican Party. It lost, but it was also a disaster for the United States of America. Let's actually have a foreign policy where we focus on the interests of American citizens. Let's have an economic policy that's about building in the United States of America rather than shipping all of our jobs overseas and getting Wall Street enriched in the process. Let's have an economic policy that's about more self-sufficiency. I mean, I have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. I don't want to wake up in a country where I take my kid to the doctor and they can't get antibiotics, because the antibiotics that were invented in the United States of America are manufactured in some foreign country. That is the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump. We're not going back to it. And even though we've made incredible progress, we understand that there's a lot more work to do. And the thing that I'd ask for the American people is a little bit of patience. This economy was not harmed in 10 months. It took a deliberate 4-year administration that was making life harder for everyday Americans, that was importing foreign workers instead of giving jobs to American workers, that was over-regulating, overtaxing, overspending. They were doing everything wrong. And as much progress as we've made, it's going to take a little bit of time for every American to feel that economic boom, which we really do believe is coming. We believe that we're on the front end of it, but we also recognize that we've got a lot of work to do to undo the damage that Joe Biden did to the American economy. And the last one I'll say, Matt, is let's be honest, it's not just Joe Biden. As much as I think Joe Biden was one of the most disastrous presidents of American history, we had a policy in this country for 40 years of shipping American jobs overseas and hiring foreign workers instead of American workers. That has caused the economic stagnation of the American middle class. There was one bright spot in 40 years, and that was the first Trump administration, and there is going to be a massive exception to that 40-year trajectory of American decline, and that's the second Trump administration. We just got to keep it.
Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey. Why this beat so cold?
We will make America proud again. When you try to kill our we will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, what's going on, family? I hope everybody that's tuned in right now that you are blessed, well, and healthy, that you're having a great week so far. Getting ready for Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I know y'all in there cooking it up. Some of y'all not cooking yet. Some of y'all celebrate on this day. Some of y'all celebrate on the weekend, this Saturday. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Make Rick a plate, though. Yeah. Y'all make Rick a plate, huh? You know, but again, I really do hope y'all have a great time. Great time with loved ones, family, friends, you know, neighbors, even strangers. Even, hey, there's some people in my neighborhood giving out plate to strangers, you know, and they welcome you in as family, you know. And that's how I was raised and where I come from, man, you know. So you have a chance to be a blessing to somebody or being out giving to me, you know, just give back, go for it, man. I encourage you to do it, you know. That's the best part about life, and just being a great human being, man. And plus, the little things go a long way. The little things, man. I keep telling y'all, the little things go a long way, man. And plus, you never know what somebody's going through. But I wanted to get into this. I know people have been saying all kind of things, and the RINO Republicans, and how disgraceful it's been with Democrats, and, you know, people saying all this and all the fear mongering, gaslight, and people love this with Trump. People hate this. There's some things he's done in the second term they disagree with, agree with. You know, there's always something. Again, there's a lot of people that, you know, that just anything the man does, it won't make them happy. You know, even if Trump gave them the best thing and made their life even better and easier, and they will still come out and oppose the man, you know, drag the man through the mud. You know, and hey, he's the big bad orange man. It's all his fault. Everything is all his fault. Even the mess he inherited is all his fault. You know, everything Biden did is all his fault. But, you know, Then the whole thing right now with people saying MAGA is splitting up, MAGA's not focused, or Trump's not focused, the Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning and the whole MTG and just stuff like that, man. I know y'all seen all these posts, and they're posted all kind of memes. But I wanted to send a huge shout out to Jennifer who sent this over for me to check out on the show from my brother Matt. And it was RINO plot just got shut down. And we seen JD Vance make an announcement. So I just wanted to check this out, see what it was talking about. So let's go and jump into this.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we just got some interesting news. You see, as we now know, right this very moment, there's an ongoing RINO plot, Republicans in name only, designed to undermine Trump's presidency and ultimately retake control of the entire Republican Party. And by the way, folks, both Vice President JD Vance and Donald Trump Jr. have personally responded to this entire RINO plot. So I'd stick around for today's entire video. We have a lot to talk about. Now, as I think you all know, prior to President Trump coming down that golden escalator in June of 2025, the Republican Party was pretty much an entirely different party altogether. In fact, I think it's fair to say, in a lot of ways over the last 10 years, President Trump has actually torn the entire Republican Party down to its foundation.
I mean, did he mean in 2015? 15, 16? Just making sure I'm hearing him correctly. Y'all know I catch on to everything.
Then rebuilt it in the image of America First. And between you and me, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's a good thing. But like I said, right this very moment, all of the RINO neocons that President Trump has spent the last 10 years kicking to the curb are now attempting to retake control of the entire party. You see, just earlier today, we got a report confirming that none other than the Bush family is currently plotting a comeback in order to hijack the Republican Party, trying to take it back from President Trump and all of his America First supporters. And on top of that, folks, as it would seem, the Bush family has actually already chosen their preferred candidate. Take a look at this. Right now, we're also seeing early reports that not only is Ted Cruz going to be mounting a presidential campaign against JD Vance in the upcoming 2028 presidential election, but that also the Bush family is going to be supporting him every single step of the way.
Oh, hell. Hey, all right. And what y'all think of Ted Cruz? I know a lot of people feel this way. Y'all know how we done some things with Ted Cruz, man, over here in Texas, man. Yeah. Oh, hell. Oh, Ted. Oh, Teddy.
But now, folks, like I said, both Vice President JD Vance and Donald Trump Jr. know exactly what the RINOs are trying to do here, with Don Jr. just earlier today actually saying, "We will never let this happen." And so, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. If Donald Trump Jr. himself is publicly talking about all of this, you can be absolutely certain that President Trump is aware of what the RINOs are trying to do and that he's never going to let it happen. But now, like I said, Vice President Vance also spoke about all of this just the other day, and by the way, he pretty much went scorched earth on the RINOs. Take a look.
The American people don't want stupid wars and America's jobs going overseas and wide open borders. That is, whether intentional or not, that was the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump.
I know we played this in the beginning of the show. Again, this has been trending when JD Vance said this a couple of days ago.
I'm glad the president got us away from that Republican Party. It lost, but it was also a disaster for the United States of America. Let's actually have a foreign policy where we focus on the interests of American citizens. Let's have an economic policy that's about building in the United States of America rather than shipping all of our jobs overseas and getting Wall Street enriched in the process. Let's have an economic policy that's about more self-sufficiency. I mean, I have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. I don't want to wake up in a country where I take my kid to the doctor and they can't get antibiotics because the antibiotics that were invented in the United States of America are manufactured in some foreign country. That is the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump. We're not going back to it.
And so, folks, like I said, scorched earth. But you know what? He's absolutely right. There is a reason why many of us helped push for the great Trump reformation of the Republican Party in 2015. It's because, let's just be honest here, the GOP prior to President Trump's emergence had pretty much become completely ineffective. They had terrible domestic policy, they had terrible foreign policy, and they allowed Barack Hussein Obama and the Democrats to destroy this country for 8 consecutive years. So yeah, frankly, I don't really want to go back to that. What this country needs is not another Bush era. Really, what this country needs is a continuation of President Trump's America First agenda. Now, JD Vance actually went on to talk about how exactly we can make that happen, but before we take a look at that, I channeled because
we've made incredible progress. We understand that there's a lot more work to do, and the thing that I'd ask for the American people is a little bit of patience. This economy was not harmed in 10 months. It took a deliberate 4-year administration that was making life harder for everyday Americans, that was importing foreign workers instead of giving jobs to American workers, that was over-regulating, overtaxing, overspending. They were doing everything wrong. And as much progress as we've made, it's going to take a little bit of time for every American to feel that economic boom, which we really do believe is coming. We believe that we're on the front end of it, but we also recognize that we've got a lot of work to do to undo the damage that Joe Biden did to the American economy. And the last point I'll say, Matt, is let's be honest, it's not just Joe Biden. As much as I think Joe Biden was one of the most disastrous presidents of American history, we had a policy in this country for 40 years of shipping American jobs overseas and hiring foreign workers instead of American workers. That has caused the economic stagnation of the American middle class. There was one bright spot in 40 years, and that was the first Trump administration, and there is going to be a massive exception to that 40-year trajectory of American decline, and that's the second Trump administration. We just got to keep it going.
And so, folks, very clearly, Vice President J.D. Vance is not happy about this attempted RINO takeover. As you might have noticed, of course, he's properly...
Whether you like it or not, I mean, they exposed a lot. Trump exposed a lot, man. He exposed a lot on the corruption, you know. Some argue that Trump is the corruption. It's all Trump's fault. But Trump did expose a lot, man. You know. And that's why so many people... And look at this on my screen. They ought to be walked out in handcuffs. Both of them at the same time. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. And not just them. A lot of other people ought to be walked out in handcuffs. 107 days.
Throwing blame on Joe Biden and the Democrats, but he's also correctly highlighting that decades worth of RINO policies have also contributed to the downtrodden state of this country. But then, ladies and gentlemen, Vice President Vance went on to talk about midterms, which are less than a year away, by the way, and really why RINO rhetoric is such a losing message. Take a look.
The Republican coalition in the 1990s was more upscale. They showed up in midterms. So Republicans tended to do a little bit better in midterm elections in the 1990s than, say, Republicans do today. And that's because while these working class voters are great, there are also people who don't necessarily show up to vote in the midterms all the time. We've got to motivate them. We've got to get them out to vote. I think it's one of the lessons that we learned in Virginia and New Jersey is that when Donald Trump is not on the ballot, you've got to give people something to actually believe in, something to be inspired by to get out there and vote. They're not going to vote just because you have an R next to your name. You've got to speak to this new working class coalition. And the one worry that I have when I look at so many of our great congressional allies, I do think that some of our folks in Congress, they want to go back to the Republican Party of 20 years ago. That Republican Party was a Republican Party that lost and that couldn't successfully govern the country. We need to lean into this new coalition, do a better job serving them, and that's how we get them to show up in these midterm elections so that we can win not just presidential races, but midterm races too.
And so, folks, that right there is absolutely true. As right-wing Americans, if we want to continue to be successful as we head into midterms and the upcoming 2028 presidential election, like JD Vance just said, the era of RINO neocons has got to come to an end. However, with all of that being said, very clearly the Bush family, the RINOs, and their chosen champion, Ted Cruz, feel a little bit differently about that. And you know what? On that note, let me show all of you exactly what Americans, especially young Americans, don't want right now. Take a look.
I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And I've worked every day to do that.
And so, folks, here's the reality. Here's just the truth. Whatever your personal stance on Israel is, or any other foreign country for that matter, right now we need American politicians who are all in, ride or die with the America First agenda. Whereas with Ted Cruz, who's looking to run against J.D. Vance in the 2028 presidential election and bring this country back to the Bush era, he says that his stated intention with getting into American politics was to represent a foreign country. Not to represent Americans or to put America first, but instead to represent a foreign country. Really to put that foreign country first. Folks, that is how we lose. But you know what? Vice President J.D. Vance actually talked about that as well. Take a look.
We have to remember that we have a lot more in common than we do not in common. And that the disagreements that animate the Republican Party, while they matter and they're important, I think these debates should happen. They should happen in podcasts and they should happen in the media. They should happen on the op-ed pages. It's totally reasonable for the people who make up this coalition to argue about what our foreign policy should be, what our specific tax policy should be, what our housing policy should be. I mean, I had a meeting just yesterday that was focused in the West Wing about how do we get housing more affordable for young Americans because of all the things that got completely out of control under the Biden administration. You had homes that doubled or tripled in price depending on the geography in 4 years under the Biden administration. We've got to solve that problem for our young people so they can afford to buy homes, start families, and actually build their own American dream. So I think my attitude is let these debates play out. But don't let the debates that we're having internally blind us to the fact that we're up against a radical leftist movement that murdered my friend a couple of months ago and that would throw many people in the Trump administration in prison, not for doing anything illegal, but for not following the far left's agenda. That is the real opponent here. A political movement in this country that has no animating principle, that has no agenda for the American people. Their sole obsession is to take down Donald Trump and anybody who helped Donald Trump govern. Focus on the enemy, have our debates, but focus on the enemy so that we can win victories that matter for the American people. That's my message.
And so, folks, really, what a great takeaway there. Honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. Very clearly right now we have some Republican infighting, if we can even call some of these RINOs Republicans. But as J.D. Vance just said, what's of the utmost importance is that we remember the very real and immediate threat that this country is experiencing from the far left. So with all of that being said, I'll just go ahead and make myself clear in case it wasn't obvious already. All that matters to me is that we continue putting America first, which is exactly what we've been doing.
America first, man. What a great video. Love this on the show today. You know, what do y'all think? Weigh in with your thoughts, man. You know, we all know what we advocate for, man. You know, and we're rooting for the America First agenda, the common sense agenda. You know, what do y'all think of that J.D. Vance and the Ted Cruz thing, man? And as y'all know, the world of politics, we do not know what to expect next, man. This thing can get real spicy and sweet. Anytime, any moment, you know. You just never know, man. But I love y'all. God bless y'all and your family. Happy Thanksgiving. Catch y'all on the next one on today's show. Peace and love, you guys.